Oh, I'm eating my fig Newton. Welcome back,
Oh,
everybody.
gotta eat quicker.
That's right.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. I lost you. Nothing. Nope. I'll be back. I can't hear you. Yeah, I don't hear him. Tell him to log out and log back in. All right, all right. Go ahead and switch it over. All right, guys. Sergio's having a little microphone difficulty, I guess, but I'm glad you guys are back. Hope everybody's having a good day. And unfortunately, we got some bad weather moving in. Of course, 4th of July weekend for everybody's 4th of July. Definitely got to be careful with the storms that are out there right now. They're coming up pretty hard and fast sometimes. Uh, yes, and some of a lot of lightning in them. So please be careful. Keep your eye on the radar. If it doesn't look like it's going to pan out for you, don't even bother going out. If you do go out, at least stay somewhere near a bridge or something that if it comes up on you really quick, you can get under the bridge for some protection.
And like an old fisherman told me a long time ago, if you think there's a chance of getting hit by lightning, the way you find out is hold your rod as high as you can over your head and
Yeah,
count to 10. If nothing happens, you're safe.
I tell you what, we've been having some pretty hellacious lightning on and off,
You
and
have.
um, sometimes what you got to watch if you're out and your rods start singing, and you'll hear them, they'll make a noise. That means they're picking up like electricity that's in the air. You need to get
Static.
out. You need to get out of that area. You start hearing that, or if you're with
A
the
little
braided
halo,
lines,
George.
yeah,
You ever seen the halo?
yeah.
A
And,
little ring around the tip of the rod.
and the other thing is, with the braided line, it gets wet with the salt water. If you're throwing like a gold spoon, especially a gold spoon or any kind of spoon in general that's metal, if you start feeling any kind of zap on your fingers on the reel seat when you cast, you need to get out of that area. That is basically a buildup of electricity that's coming down the line, basically.
Because I tell you, many a time in the fall, I'll be out there grouper fishing. You look up, and like I said, you can hear like a little hum, and you could actually see a little round circle off the tip of your rods, man. It's time to get all the rods and lay them flat on the inside
Yeah.
the boat.
When they start singing, yeah, you got too much juice in the area. I've had that happen a few times, and I've had it chase me. I've actually moved like 7 miles, was fine, and then a little while later, not too much longer, like 15, 20 minutes, it started doing it again, and then I just ended up going in on that because it was coming towards me.
Well, you got to be safe. There's no reason to take a chance on losing your life or getting hurt. You know,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
if you think there's any chance of something going wrong, you need to use your better judgment and go ahead and go in. And
Jim is saying, uh, U.S. Coast Guard reported 7 rescues at Anclote. It was actually 10, believe it or not. It was 10, and that was just nuts. And it was I don't know if it was just because that wind really kicked up real heavy and real fast. If they all those boats that were partying at the sandbar basically or on the island just started taking on water, but a bunch of boats took on water, and um, yeah, so they had a lot of rescue people had to come out there and grab those people.
well, I can tell you this Sunday when I was leaving the boat show, I wish I could have left. You left at the right time. When I was getting ready to go out the door, it was just starting to sprinkle, and the lady says, "Get to your truck quick, it's coming." By the time I got a third of the way to the truck, the wind went from about 5 to 6 to about 20. By the time I got to the truck, I swear, George, it must have been blowing 50 miles an hour. The rain wasn't coming down, it was going vertical. I mean,
Right.
and I got drenched because you got all this stuff from the boat show. What are you going to do with it? I had to open the tailgate, throw it inside the truck, get in the truck. Oh my God. I got home, I was drenched. And but I felt sorry for the people who have all those boats and all that stuff outside.
Yeah, the booths that were outside.
Oh yeah.
And, excuse me. When I was coming towards the Howard Franklin to go home from Tampa, I could see the storm in St. Pete, and it was coming, towards Tampa. And right at the midway point of the bridge is when I started getting, really rained on. And then it got to where you couldn't see very far in front of your vehicle. Everybody started putting their flashers on, and the wind on the bridge got ridiculous. I was actually steering into the wind because my truck was being pushed. You could feel it vibrating and being pushed from the gusts.
See, that's what hit me about 20 minutes, 30 minutes later.
Yeah. But it was something else. Those wind gusts were something, and the whitecaps out there, brutal.
Oh man, I tell you,
brutal. So just be careful out there right now. We've got a lot of weather this week. We got
we might have a pressure building up.
Yeah.
Towards the weekend. They say
it's gonna be right over the central part of Florida. So we're right in that, and we got to see what it does. Right now, we got that big storm that was just hitting us all morning, and then staying just off the coast.
Well, the thing is, it looks like
this week is almost a washout. No,
I mean 80%. Well, it looks like 80% Wednesday and 60-something Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday and Monday and Tuesday is 50. Now 50, you can kind of say, okay, 50,
Yeah.
50. But when you start talking, it gets up in the 60. Look at today. I mean, in Wesley Chapel, I woke up and it started to sprinkle. By 7 o'clock, it started to rain pretty good, and it rained really hard for almost 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And then it would slow up and pick back up, slow up. Then finally around 1:30, it kind of cleared up and went away for a while. But it looked like it was coming again.
Yeah, I in between the heavy rain, I washed my boat today in a light rain. I figured, it'll help me rinse the boat off. Why not? So I got the boat ready,
And then, we're talking about lightning. Look what happened to poor John Rivers.
Yeah.
On his boat. Lightning didn't hit his boat. It hit his concrete driveway, ran through the driveway, and then went up his trim tab. I mean, it fried everything except the computer and the motor, but the sonar, the GPS, the wiring harness, everything. It burned it all up. He said, you go in there and some of it was just like melted together.
Huh. That's unbelievable. Especially when you figure the trailer is sitting on rubber wheels and it still got it.
But see, it went from the concrete to the metal plate on the trim tab.
But it had to jump. It had to jump. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it had to jump somewhere. So the guy said, now, if it would have hit the boat, he said everything would have been gone.
Yeah, he would have been shot.
He said, but I guess he got. So they sent the boat back to Ranger because since they have to put a whole new harness and everything.
Right. I'll tell you, that's like the people that live in the marina on the sailboats, and you got that big mast.
Oh God.
I would not be comfortable with that in the middle of a lightning storm.
Oh, they have lightning arresters on those things.
I know, but I've seen a video of a sailboat just get blown apart by a lightning strike to the mast. As it hit the mast, went down to the boat, and it was bad. Oh. Hello, good morning. That's a good one there.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. That must be one of your friends.
Must be one of yours.
Oh, very good. Well, we're
you want to block? I can block her. I'll hit block.
He says, well, I'm done with chartering. Tired of these new wannabes that have no respect and all fishing jokers or mommy and dad,
Yep.
and
There's no doubt.
pay for them to get into it. It keeps going. It keeps it going, guys. And Sergio, thanks for being a great friend for close to 2 decades. Oh man,
Yeah. Well, I can understand his frustration. You get a lot of these younger guys that just either follow people around, copy what they're doing. All of a sudden, they're sitting in your spots. It gets
and
old.
I tell you, at least years ago, or they would be respectful. No,
Right.
now they just come right up to you to find
Yeah, I
out.
have.
They know you're a captain, and they'll just come right
Oh
up
yeah.
to you to get your spot.
What's nice is I have captains in my area that see me fish in certain areas, and they actually leave it alone. They don't. They know, oh, that I fish there, and not that it's my water or I own it. It's just being respectful. Like, hey, we know George fishes that area a lot. We're going to leave that spot alone, and I do the same for them. I mean, I know spots that they fish that I don't go to, and it's nice because it really stinks when you get to your spot and there's another captain sitting there already.
But
You can't own it.
you,
There's
you
no
don't
doubt
own a
about that.
spot. But I guess my thing is when it's these new guys that they don't
And,
know anything, and they actually come up to where you're at
oh,
to get your spot, get your
oh yeah,
number. You know.
yep. I was fishing out in the bay, and I had a guy do that. He did the drive by, push the button on the GPS on me.
Yeah.
I was like, and it was so obvious. I was like, I told my clients, watch now, watch. He's gonna push a button on the fish finder. Watch, watch. And sure enough, right when he got even with me, there went the thumb up on the button.
Yeah. It's and it's a shame that it got because Greg Lear's he's such a nice guy. He's one of it's the
Craig,
newer, not all of them, but a lot of the newer captains, they just don't think like we do. We think a lot about ecology and conservation and being polite and giving people their space. And some of these new ones, especially, I love it when they come close to you and they pass you and they got the speaker and the subwoofer going about as loud as they can, makes your boat vibrate.
yeah.
Well, there goes all the fish.
Well, I think the funniest thing um, that I had recently with a younger captain, I guess maybe they're newer to the thing, is I was fishing a spot for days in a row, and they kept seeing me there. So then I went to go there, and sure enough, they were anchored exactly where I had been catching the fish. And I was like, all right. I anchored where he was fishing the day before. Both days he had to leave because we were catching fish and they weren't. And how do you explain to your clients that the fish aren't biting when the captain that's 100 feet away from you is
Yeah,
just catching the crap out of them?
that's
So
right.
because a lot of times it ain't just a spot, it's timing, it's what gear you're using, what bait you're using, what size hook. There's a lot of things that go into it.
It's not just the spot.
The
I mean,
spot.
the
Exactly.
spot helps, but not necessarily it's going to produce all the
Right.
time. It's going to produce sometimes with different tides and
Right.
everything else. You know,
Well, I want to say congratulations, Jessica. She had 2 charters this weekend. She's excited about it, and congratulations. Glad you're starting off, getting your feet wet and getting going.
just remember, Jessica, be polite, give people their space, so you don't have other people come down on you. Yeah.
And then she also does the scallops. So if somebody's looking to do that, and Mike Haynes does the scalloping also. So
Yeah,
if
he
you're looking to
starts.
do scalloping,
He's starting.
July 1st,
Yeah, we're
tomorrow.
supposed to start tomorrow, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Jim says, I give credit to Michael Dawson. He was fishing a spot Tuesday. He pulled down for me and kept his distance until I left. And that's the way you should do it. You should give each other just a fair amount of distance so you're not encroaching. Or I like this. I've had captains do this to me. Now, usually if I see somebody there, I'll just, pass it up. But I had a captain, I was fishing a spot, and he had a spot that he was fishing that was really close to where I was fishing. He actually called me on the phone and said, hey, I've been hitting that point right there that's, maybe about 100 feet away from you. Do you mind if I pull in? Just off that phone call, I was like, nope, come right in. I don't care. You're being polite like that.
Yeah.
Come right in.
Well, that's the way it should be, you know.
Yeah.
Give. I mean, I can understand. I mean, you can't say I got to this spot of Wheaton Island now. I don't want nobody around me because hey,
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen.
it ain't going to happen.
Well,
But I guess you can give the guy enough distance that you're not going to interrupt his fishing.
yeah. Well, that's like I crack up. I'll tell my clients on the boat, I'm like, now watch. When we go past this captain, he's gonna yell out, "Stay out of my spots, George!" And he Caldwell says that to everybody that comes in the area by him. It's funny. I crack up every time he does it.
Well, but you know, again,
Nobody owns it.
nobody owns a
You
water.
gotta be respectful.
You just
You
got to
do.
be respectful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't, if I got a spot that I've been fishing, I catch fish for years, and there's another guy close to there, and I might want to try it. But now if it's too close, no, I won't.
Right.
But if
And
I
then-
determine that I think it's far enough from him, where
Right.
I'm not going to bother his fishing,
Right. Exactly. And that's how it
then
should
I'm
be.
going to do it.
But some of these guys, I had a guy one time, more of a known area, so it wasn't a big deal for him to come in and fish. Okay. He did get a little closer than I would, but it wasn't too bad. But here was the thing. This is a younger captain. He pulled in next to me, basically anchored up the same distance away from the shore, basically copied what I had going on. I couldn't believe what I saw. And this tells you it's a younger captain. He scooped in the live well, dumped the chummers out this side of the boat, scooped in the live well, dumped the chummers out on this side of the boat, sat down and got on his phone doing Facebook or whatever he was doing
Jesus.
and told the people to fish.
Oh.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
Well, you know, you don't. I put my phone to do not disturb. I know you do, you know, and I put it where I can see it in case there's an emergency at home or
Sure.
something. You know, it'll vibrate and I can see it. And oh, if it's my wife and I think there's a
Right.
problem.
Right.
But as far as and I've seen it where some of these captains go out. A lot of them don't. I tell you, the older captains
Normal.
are very professional. Yeah, they'll say, "Hey, Sergio, I'm sorry I didn't answer your call, but you know I was on the charter." Not a
Right.
problem, man. It's okay. But a lot of these, no, you're right. They'll get out there once they give
Yep.
their clients a rod and some bait. They start texting. Well, how can you take care of the client that way?
Right. So now for me, I leave my phone on, but I'm always respectful of these people are paying me to help them catch more fish. The reason why I leave mine on is a couple of reasons. One, my wife on a day like tomorrow and the rest of this week, she will watch that radar for me. Besides me looking at the radar during the day, she'll watch it too. And sometimes she'll call me and say, "Hey, do you see that storm coming your way?" Just to give me a heads up in case maybe I didn't look for 15 minutes or something.
Right.
And you know how fast those storms can come
Oh
up.
yeah.
The other reason is sometimes if I see another captain calling me, I'll answer it because you never know. Somebody might need help. Their boat is sinking or whatever. So, but if it's just a captain calling me and I answer and I'll be like, "Hey, I'm on a charter. I'll have to talk to you later." And it's a short and sweet. You're done.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
it.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
But to carry a regular conversation, I've had them do that.
Oh yeah.
You can see them. They're just talking to their buddies for about 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And their clients are sitting there waiting on this guy.
Oh yeah. And then the worst is because I've heard them do this and trying to book a charter on the phone while you're trying to do an actual charter and their conversation is going on too long. It should be, yes, I'm open that day. I'll give you a call back after my charter's done. No, I see them like having a long conversation. It's like, oh my goodness.
Well, they're afraid that they might lose the charter. Well, what about the charter you have with you now?
Right.
You
You're going to lose that one because I've heard it. I've actually gained clients from other captains that they said, "Oh yeah, the last captain, we wouldn't go out with him again. He was all on the phone and worried about this, and him and his wife were arguing on the phone." I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" It's like, keep your private life at home.
Now, I wonder, Jessica or Mike, what do you hear about the scallops up north? How does it look this year? I mean, everybody says it's going to be a banner year for scalloping.
Huh.
If you can get into the water. The only concern I got right now is if they get all this rain that we've been having and that they're talking about, that water might get pretty murky.
That, and it might actually change the salinity and
And
move
they
them.
might just move in deeper.
Yeah. Yep. And I know it's changed. I know the patterns change for them. I don't do scalping, but I listen and hear things. And um, I know last year they were surprised they were actually out deeper than normal, and they were doing good out there.
Well, last year wasn't a good year close to shore. Well, they
Yeah.
normally you had to go out in deeper water. And the trouble is, once you start going into deeper water,
It's
you
tough.
limit the people that can get them.
Oh, yeah, it's tough. The sunlight is not lighting it up as good. You got it's just deeper water. It's more of a pain in the butt.
But remember, this is not the people something they do for a living. It's something
Right.
they do for fun and like
You
going
got to hold your
fishing.
breath.
They got to hold their breath. They got to go down. They got to find the crazy thing, you know. And
It's funny how you see them puff across though.
oh yeah, and I tell you, they're beautiful. Some of these are when they're opened up and you see them, they got some beautiful colors on them.
Jessica said this weekend she will be scouting. Maybe with this weather, you might not be. We'll see.
I don't know.
I'm hoping you get breaks in it. I hope it's not just a solid washout.
Because I hate to see that happen for the 4th of July, all this stuff. So if I got one of my old clients called me. He was in town. He said, "Man, I messed up. I should have called 3 weeks ago." Wants to go out Friday evening to see the fireworks out of
Oh
Clearwater.
God! And
And it's
Clearwater.
6 of him. Yeah. And I said, "Man, first thing is 6 of you in a boat."
Yeah.
And then the captain is 7. You're talking Friday when there's 65, 68% chance of rain, and you want to go and watch the
At night.
fireworks
At
around
night.
6 o'clock. I said, I gave him Michael Dawson's phone number and Jeremy Griffith because he's got a 27-footer. And I said, see if one of these two guys will want to take you. I said,
Right.
but none of these other guys are going to do it. I said, plus it's the 4th of July weekend.
I
People
wouldn't
have all
be
these
interested.
plans already made.
Yeah, I wouldn't be interested in that.
No,
So-
I know. No, it's in Clearwater too, George.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you're talking about 6 people with you as 7 on your boat. You couldn't do that. I wouldn't do it.
At night too. Nighttime adds in a whole nother texture of danger with people that are not used to being on boats.
But Jessica was saying that she's like, yeah, well, low tide. If it works out just right, you know, the ideal situation is low tide around 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
Because then you get that sun just right between 10 and 1. You got the perfect sunlight and you got that low water. It's great.
Yeah, if it works out for you, hopefully it will. I'm sure you can just look at the tide chart and kind of plan it, but sometimes you can't plan the right day for it. You got to go when the customer wants.
That's right. Now, let's talk a little bit about the boat show, George. I mean, we saw what a difference from 3 years ago during COVID.
Oh yeah.
I mean, 3 years ago, COVID, 3.5 years ago, you went in, they told you this is the price, take it or leave it. It's going to be 8 months or 9 months before you get your boat, maybe.
And the price might change.
Yeah, and some of them had an open contract
Yeah,
which
I would
said
never.
that, hey, you're buying the boat for 150,000, but between now and the time your boat gets finished, if there's material increase in cost of materials, you're going to pay more. That means your boat might not cost you 150. It might cost you 170.
Oh yeah.
And now, man, there was some really good pricing at the show.
They're dying to sell boats right now. It went just the opposite way. The sales weren't there.
There's dealers out there that still have 24 in inventory.
2024
24 models in inventory. And remember, tomorrow, July 1st, 2026 models come out. That's when they change. So if you got 2025, they're considered a year old now.
Right. Now I forget. What about like the Yamaha outboard motors?
Yamaha, they don't see Yamaha.
It's different.
Years ago, they stopped putting a date on the motors. The day that you buy them.
Yeah, but there's still a date on it, actually.
Yeah, but when you sell it,
it's whatever year.
Whatever year it is. So if you buy a 2026 boat, the motor might be 3 years old. It's a 2026 motor.
Right. Basically, it's the year you start using it.
Yeah, whatever the year that you buy it or the model year of the boat.
Right.
So
But
in other words,
there,
if you're repowering, it'll be a 2025.
yeah,
But if you're buying a new boat and it's after starting tomorrow, it's a 2026.
have like either a year or a date code underneath the
Oh, yeah, they have
cowling.
to have it.
Yeah, they have a year or a date code under the cowling. I think it's on the starboard side, if I remember correctly. But it's confusing. But like right now, you go to sell a motor, like I'm going to be selling mine soon. You go to sell a motor, it's like I bought it in January of 23.
So it's a
It's a
23 motor.
23, period.
Yeah.
That's the way it's.
It might have been built in 21, but it's a 23. You
But
know, and you know what happened was I remember when I was young years ago, people would go in and the dealer would have maybe 10, 15 motors left over. And of course, everybody says, "Oh, I want an extra discount." That's last year's model. Well, now it's not.
but they're doing it with the boats right now. But I mean, them prices that we were seeing were
Oh, listen,
way discounted.
I saw that Bull Bay 25.5 foot boat, twin 200 Suzuki's, T-top, decked out, and it was 119. A 25.5 foot boat with twin 200s and a trailer.
Right. Well, look at it this way. We seen a 2024 Pathfinder. So since it was 2024 leftover, original price was 195. For the boat show, they dropped it down to 165, and then they gave another discount for boat show pricing. I think they brought it down to what, 135 was it?
Yeah, something like that.
From a $195 price.
But it was a 2024, see?
Right. But there's a lot of guys that won't care about that. I mean, you're looking at $60,000.
Yeah, if you're going to keep the boat, yeah. I mean, it's like a car. If you're one of these guys that buys a car or truck and you keep it for 6, 8, 10, 12 years, who cares? But
Right.
if you're one of these persons that likes to buy a truck every 2 years, man, that you buy 2026, you buy 2025. Think about it. When you go sell it, it's 3 years old. It's not
Yeah,
2 years old.
oh yeah, you got the depreciation per
You
year.
got to pay. Although the boat didn't get used till July, you
But
take the depreciation hit.
Yeah.
For the
Well,
model
they'd
year.
have to do the math, but with that kind of a drop in price. But here's the problem: the brand new ones are cheaper than it was 2 years ago,
That's the thing too. That's
and you're
the thing
gonna
that
get messed up.
you hit the nail right on the head. A lot of these boats that were selling that had a list price of 160 last year, or back during COVID 2 years ago, or a year ago, their retail prices dropped from 160 to maybe 150. So they're already cheaper than they were
Right.
last year.
Right.
So now you're trying to sell a boat that
You can't.
you got a 25 that costs you less, sells for less, and you're going to try to sell a 24. You got to make that 24 really get down in the price, like you said, for a guy
Right.
that says, "Hey, for that kind of money, I'll buy it."
Yep. And that's where, like I'm saying, if it's a guy that's gonna keep the boat, he's got a great deal right there. It's a brand new boat. No matter how you slice it, that's a great deal. But I was just blown away. I mean, when do you ever see a $60,000 discount?
You know,
Boat show or no boat show.
you and I saw a lot of boats at the boat show in the
Yeah.
$50,000 to $70,000, decent sized boats. That
Yeah.
3 years ago, those boats were over 100,000.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. That one boat brand, I don't remember the name, but when you can see the mounting bolts on the
Maycraft,
inside,
Maycraft,
oh yeah, yeah,
the MV.
that was terrible.
What is it? It was an
Maycraft.
MC, Maycraft, MAY.
Yeah. So they had um, on the inside, you could see all the fender washers
And
and
the
all the
bolts.
bolts.
Yeah.
Instead of putting a false wall there just to cover it, so
At
it would
least
look
hide
nice.
it.
Yeah, it was terrible. Even a U-shaped piece of fiberglass over the top of it would be better than what they had.
You know,
I was
you're
amazed
right.
at that.
I think they could have put something that maybe slid over it or
That
something.
looked, yeah, that looked terrible.
But you could see, what was it? They had like 8 bolts on
And
there,
yeah,
and all these big bolts with nuts and a washer.
because they had the motor like a swim platform.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
Swim platform bolted to the back of the boat.
isn't it called gill bracket?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And what's funny is that thing's going from one end of the boat to the other, and they had bolts every, what, 5 inches probably?
Yeah.
And you've seen all these big fender washers. I'm like, how tacky does that look? And the material, like on the sidewalls, that material was so thin. And I'm thinking, well, if you're going to use that thin material, you couldn't just cut a thin piece of material and put it over the top of those so you couldn't see it, even if you caulked it in, or I don't know.
Do something right.
It was terrible.
I mean, the boat, when you looked at the boat from the front, it was
First.
a pretty looking boat.
Yeah. Yep.
It's when you start looking at it like you and I would look at it that you say, "Whoa, look at this."
You couldn't. There was a lot of things missing on that boat, but you couldn't beat the price. You were talking like $50,000 or $54,000, somewhere around there. So it's a no frills boat, so it was a lot of bang for the buck. But just looking at it, I'm thinking, God, for maybe another $50, you could have just covered those bolts up and had a nice smooth wall right there.
And it would have added so much to it.
The aesthetics would have been so much better. Because not for nothing, if you're with your wife, which most guys are when they're out looking for boats, because you got to get the wife to okay it, she's going to see that, and that's going to worry her. See, like, is that okay? That's going to scare her seeing bolts.
Right off the bat, that's already starting to show a negative.
Yep. And then here's what's worse. We throw cast nets, and you got salt water going in the boat all the time and all that. If you start getting any surface rust on any of those washers or bolt heads, how bad is that going to look on a brand new boat?
Yeah, it's going to, even if it's stainless, it's going to bleed a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but hey, we ought to do a fishing report.
You want to run Tony's first?
Let's run Tony.
Yeah.
Hi, Captain Tony Franklin back with you once again with this week's fishing report. I've been out for a few weeks. I'm glad to be back. Got quite a report coming up. The weather's getting a little bit warm. The weather's definitely heating up, and the fish are heating up also. So let's jump into this report. First, we're going to talk about the action that's been going on. We've had jack crevalles in the area on the grass flats. Not super huge. Some of the schools have been medium to medium size, large, medium, large, somewhere in that size, and a lot of the other schools have been smaller. But as you know, the jacks really pull really hard, so jacks are fun to catch. They've been on the flats. A lot of action on the range markers recently. There's been a few triple tail pulled off some of these markers. I've also been around some of the buoys. So if you're out on the water, check your range markers, check your buoys if you have time. There has been a few cobia around. Also, they're around the range markers. Some of the same areas. The mangrove snapper have moved in around the area bridges. We got them around some of the southern bridges in 8-10 feet of water. They're also around the range markers in the center of the bay. Pretty much any range marker is going to be holding some mangrove snapper. So the mangrove snapper have been coming in real solid bite around the bridges, so you may want to start there. Small scaled sardines or chopped up scaled sardines are your best bet. Moving along, the trout bite continues to be amazing this year once again. Trout bite continues just to be phenomenal. Some days we're catching 35, 40 trout. You've got silver trout mixed in. You got spotted sea trout mixed in. Your best bet, 6 to 7 feet of water. Make sure you got some nice green grass underneath the areas you're fishing. Incoming tide has been the best lately. So try to find a tide that's moving, because when that tide's not moving, the bite's really slowed down. They seem to prefer the incoming tide as opposed to the outgoing tide lately. The mackerel have also come on the flats. They're around the range markers. Some of the deeper sand shoal areas, they're around there also. But they are here to miss. One day they're here, one day they're next. The reds, they're around the mangroves on the higher tide. You've got to get that bait right up under there. If you want to use a small cork, pitch it up under there. If you can't make a perfect cast, pitch it up under there. And on the high tide, those redfish are definitely under there. And you got to get in there. You got to turn them right away, because they're going to dive straight for that. There's been some snook around. They have been really picky. One day we'll go catch quite a few, go back to the same spot, same tide, not working. So with them, you just got to keep trial and error, just keep trying new spots. That's the key until you can get on the schools of the snook. The snook have been tough lately, so it's going to take some work to get that snook going, but everything else is phenomenal. The fishing's great. Time to get out on the water. Tight lines. Good luck, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, Tony. Nice report. As
He
usual.
always does a good job, a real good job. And, you know, we like to hear from some of the other guys that are fishing out of Tarpon Springs and Hudson and some of those areas and see how they're doing. One of the things that I hear too is that this year it looks like the grouper bite has been really, really good.
It has
course,
been.
You can't keep any fish,
No.
but the bite is good.
Oh, I tell you what. Last week I hit one of my rock piles. It's a rock pile, 18 feet of water, but it's surrounded by coral and grass bottom. So we were catching grouper and speckled trout at the same time. So it was really a fun thing to do. And then we caught a couple of flounder, which, if you've noticed, we've been getting more flounder lately.
Yes, we
And
have.
It's good to see. And remember now, it's moved up to 14 inches for keeper flounder, not 12 anymore. It's 14. And the other thing, I agree with Tony that this has definitely been the speckled trout year. You know, an old time fisherman told me that fishing goes in cycles. He said 7 years. After a lot of years being on the water, I'd say it's about 5. But like, you'll get like this year, the speckled trout bite is just phenomenal. And then your mangrove snapper just been okay. And like sometimes that'll switch where you'll see the speckled trout start to slow down, and then another species will pick up, and then all of a sudden you'll have a banner year for that species. And it does, it cycles like that. But this year, I've noticed we were catching a lot of large trout. Now there's a lot more small ones that have moved in, but they're everywhere. And you'll catch, like you're saying, 30, 40, 50 trout, and you might only get 10 keepers out of it, but the action is tremendous.
And to me, sometimes the clients wants the action.
Right.
It doesn't have to be all big
Yep.
keeper trout.
No.
I think, you know, it's like in the winter months, how many times has Jack Crevelli saved my life?
Oh yeah.
And
Or
I've
even
actually,
lady
got
fish.
into school of them, and they're catching that. I tell them, okay, let's try to go somewhere else. Well, Captain, we don't want to leave this. This is fun. You know,
On that note, like even ladyfish can be,
That's right.
a savior sometimes. They jump out of the water. The kids love them. But I had one time, I had these guys from Arkansas, these two brothers that would come down every year. They'd hire me like 2 or 3 times in the 10 days they'd be down. Well, it was a winter time, and it was just bad weather, real cold. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go fish deep today. I hit a reef up by Howard Franklin, and we hooked a cobia. Unfortunately, it was a big one, and it ended up taking them back down. We were on a tarpon rod, and it still just pulled the drag out, got back down to the reef, and broke them off. And then we were catching other like snappers and stuff like that, some sheep's head. And then that just all of a sudden that shut down. We weren't catching anything, and then it turned into catfish after catfish. It was like a huge school of catfish invaded the reef, pushed everything out of the way, and that's all we were catching.
they will.
And so then I was like, after about 15 minutes of solid catfish after catfish, I said, all right, we're going to move. They were like, oh, no, Captain, we never catch catfish this big at home. These are great. And they didn't want to leave. And I'm like, really? And they're like, this is fun. Luckily for me, they must have moved on, and then we moved on. But if they would have stayed there, they would have stayed there catching catfish. They were having a blast.
It's like I said, sometimes
Ben.
we think different from our clients. Sometimes the clients is just,
Oh, yeah.
he's not thinking about a 40-inch snook. He's thinking about just catching a fish.
That's where, and Jessica, just in case, I know you're kind of new to the business, that's where you really got to communicate. Feel your clients out on the phone before you ever go, because you'll get the guys like, oh man, I really want to catch a snook. So you know where you got to gear towards. Then you'll get the people like I had just recently. They're like, oh, we just want to keep the rods bent and just have a good time. And that's the kind of people. You might do some flats fishing if it's right, and then you might end up going out in the bay and just doing a bunch of trout and mackerel and stuff like that. to where I've had people say, "Oh my God, we caught like 50 fish, and none of them were bigger than about 22 inches." But they had a blast. They said it was the best time they ever had because of the action.
That's it. And Donald said, make sure you tell everybody about getting stabbed by catfish. Yeah, you want to be real careful.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that come from up north, they have these freshwater cats and that don't have the same, we'll call it venom or poison in the fins. I remember one time, uh, 2 times I've ever been stung by catfish. One time was because I made the mistake of letting 2 people handle the fish. I went to reach for the fish, and my friend was holding the line, and he said, "Here," and he swung it right into me.
Oh, God.
It hit me right about here in the palm, and uncontrollably, my thumb just went and got rigor mortis. And what saved me was I actually squeezed it, and I just thought of like a snake bite. So I bit it and actually sucked on it to get the venom to come back out, spit it out. I dunked it. Now, this is years ago. Now you got to watch with the salt water anymore.
Yeah, you can't. Years ago, saltwater was good, but not anymore.
Salt water was the thing to draw it out. So I would dunk it like 4 or 5 times, and each time I would do that same thing and spit it out. And within 15 minutes, I had the use of my hand again. My uncle, because we didn't know no better, catfish will defend themselves. If you go to step on a catfish, I guarantee you, right before you step on him, his fin is going to come straight up. My uncle went to step on one. It went through the bottom of the sneaker into his foot. By the time we walked across the street to the hotel he was staying at and got to his room, we had to just cut his shoelace because the pressure was so bad and tight. He just was like, "Just cut it." And so yeah, it can be bad. So just be careful with catfish. I use a de-hooker.
I mean, it's that slime that they leave on your leader. When you get
Yeah.
them, or a lot of times you miss them and you bring your leader and you see that
Yeah.
slime. It's got they got that bacteria, and what happens is when they pinch you and you pull it out, that bacteria stays in there.
Oh,
And
yeah,
you,
you gotta be
you,
careful.
that's what you did. You have to squeeze it and get it out as much as you can.
You want to
and-
make it bleed. Squeeze
And I
it.
had a dermatologist that said, make it bleed and then put hot water on it. And I said, well, yeah, how do you get hot water?
Yeah.
He said, well, just turn your motor on.
Yeah.
And out of the peephole, use
Yep.
that water
Yep.
real quick to help get everything out of there.
But the main thing is you got to be fast.
Yeah.
As soon as you get hit, and I don't care if you think it's gross or not, wipe it off, rinse it off, whatever you got to do, but bite that thing, make it bleed, and actually suck on it to draw that stuff out. Trust me, it'll make a big difference. The other one you got to watch out for is skipjack. You're not sure
Oh,
what that,
God.
if you're not sure what it is, look it up. I see a lot of mean people. This gets me mad every time I see it. A lot of times you'll get people fishing out the Skyway at the fishing pier, and they're from up north, or they don't know, or they're just getting into fishing, and they'll catch a skipjack, and they'll be asking, is this a good fish to use for bait, whatever? And jerks will get on there, and that's right, I'm calling you jerks when you do it. They'll get on there and say, "Oh yeah, that's a great bait. Just grab it and hook it back onto your hook and throw it out there." And that's the meanest thing. They have three prongs on the bottom and then 2 or 3 on the top. That if it hits you, it feels like somebody has a match to your hand.
For about 15 minutes.
It's on fire.
It doesn't just go away real quick.
No, not at all. And if you're a person like that's allergic to bee stings, it could be really bad for you. Like it's actually that bad. And one time, my brother was throwing the cast net off my boat, and he had one in the cast net and didn't realize it. And he let the cast net rest against his belly, and it stung him right there. Made him actually sick to his stomach, and actually really made it bad for him because of where he stung him. So just be careful what's out there.
Yeah, all my stings from them has been in the net because you're bringing the net up with all this bait and you don't see them in there. And all of a sudden, man, when you grab that net, and bam, you know it. Because it looks like somebody put a cigarette right on you and held it there.
Oh yeah, and a lot of times, like me being a captain, I always want to keep a bait on somebody's line and get them back out there as fast as possible. So a lot of times, I don't look at my live well. I just go like this and grab one, and I put it on the hook. Well, if you go in there and grab and you happen to have a skipjack in your live well, you're gonna know about it real quickly.
Real quick. All right, let's do what we better do. Let's do Mike Haynes, huh?
Sure.
Good evening, Captain Mike Haynes, Fishbones Charters out of Crystal River, Florida. Well, this week looks a little wet for opening season of scallops. So or just for the 4th of July holiday. So if you're going to be out, just pay attention to the radar, pay attention to the weather, keep your eye in the sky, as they say, so you don't get caught in something you don't want to be caught in, lightning and wind and nasty weather. Be safe out there this week, just because we got this system out in the Gulf that's going to produce a lot of storms. So just be vigilant, be safe, and don't drink while you're out there, captains. Get your family home safe. On another note, the scalloping. So far, my scouting out there, been out there with a few friends looking around, and so far it looks pretty good, looks pretty promising. I will ask, if you are going scalloping, be conservative with what you take. Please only take what you can. Try not to overindulge. We don't want to take a whole bunch of scallops home and then they don't get eaten and wasted. Just know that all of us out there getting scallops, just like fishing, you are the reason why we have a fishery. So just be conservative, as well as when you harvest. Try to let the smaller ones go. Try to get the bigger ones that are decent size where you're going to catch some fish. And again, make sure you only take what you can eat and not waste. Red fishing, snook, trout, it's all been very good. It's a little slow, obviously, summertime. Things tend to slow down. Bite seems to be better early and later in the day. Obviously, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoons, just hot. It's hot for us, it's hot for fish. Things tend to slow down. So if you're going to get out there, get out early, and or get out later in the afternoon, if you can, with these afternoon thunderstorms. Water temperatures have been about between 86 and 88. Some places they're seeing 90. It just depends on where you're at. So it's a little warm out there. Obviously, with these rains, it's going to cool that down, which will help our fishery tremendously for the next week. But it will muddy up some water. So most of the time we get this clear water, it's probably going to be a little more stained. My suggestion on that is go with some cut baits. Some of these fish will be a little more geared toward their smell sensation than they would reaction strike when the staining water happens. So go for cut bait if you got it. It tends to work a little bit better after a lot of these heavy rains that we get coming through. Let's see, the grouper season, we still haven't heard too much about it. We've heard yes and no, heard 10 days, heard 15 days. We're still waiting on that. If it does happen, I think it's going to happen in September, which unfortunately for the shallow water groupers, the bite ain't going to be there. You're going to have to go offshore to get it. But as soon as I hear anything, I'll let you know. But so far for grouper, I haven't heard much happening yet. Let's see as well, just 4th of July, everybody's going to be out there for fireworks. Just be safe, take your time, leave the alcohol for after you get off the water, especially if you're driving. And y'all have a happy 4th of July. This is Captain Mike Haynes, Fishbones Charters out of Crystal River, Florida. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Thank you, Mike. Good report. So just to go over a little bit, there's no size limit on scallops, but the suggestion is that you try to get them at least 2 inches or bigger, because you're not going to have much in it, and anything smaller than that anyway. So you might as well let them grow. If you're leaving them whole, it's 2 gallons per person, 10 gallons max per boat. If you're actually shucking them, which almost nobody does that on the boat, it's too much work. But if you actually do shuck them, it's 1 pint per person and a half gallon per boat. So that's what
And that's a lot of scallops.
It is. But most people just leave them whole. It's just easier. And a lot of places where you go out, when you come back into the docks, there's people that you can pay that will actually shuck them for you.
And it's worth every penny of it.
It is. You better wear gloves if you do it yourself.
Yeah. All right. Let's get Michael Dawson in.
All right.
Hi guys, Captain Michael Dawson here at Patriot Guide Service here with this week's fishing report and forecast. So this week the snook bite has been in absolute full swing out there. We're averaging 50 to 60 snook a trip out there. A lot of them in that higher 35 to 40 inch class and a few fish over that 40 inch mark. It is absolutely phenomenal out there. Their spawn is in absolute full swing right now, and it's a great time to cash in on the opportunities and get some big fish. Grunts are the key bait right now. While these fish are out there spawning, a little 5-inch little pigfish about the size of your hand, also known as a grunt, pigfish, grass grunt, a few different names for them, all the same fish. They eat their eggs, so when you throw these big grunts at the snook, the snook cannot resist them at all. So free line one of these big grunts on the edge of any pass, beach, and you should do pretty well with the big snook. I've seen them around Honeymoon, Three Rooker, Anclote, the Sandbar, really any of the beaches, and especially on an outgoing tide. These big snook need an outgoing tide to get their eggs to hatch, so that's when they are spawning. So that's the key time to throw these big grunts at them. And besides snook fishing, if you're looking to get some meat in the box, there's plenty of mangrove snapper out there in that 20 to 30 foot of water range, as well as some nice cobia out there. Check out your reefs like Pasco 1 and your hard bottom and ledging, and they should do pretty well. Besides that offshore, plenty of gag grouper. Of course, can't keep any gag grouper right now, but it is pretty good out there. Back to inshore, tarpon bite kind of picked back up again. I know last week I said it was fizzling out, but it seemed like a few more fish showed up again. Hopefully they stay around a little bit and these rainstorms don't push them off. But get out there early morning, late evening, big pinfish under a cork, whether it be on the west side of the beach or a little bit south of the Clearwater around Sand Key area. Plenty of fish showing up. It should be pretty good. Captain Michael Dawson, Patriot Guide Service. Get out there and have a good time.
Thank you, Michael.
Nice report. Nice report.
Yeah, and he gave some really good detailed information about those pigfish, those grunts eating the
Yeah.
snook eggs, and why then the big female is going to get very protective.
Right.
And maybe she's not wanting to eat, but she's going to go after them.
And then the other thing too, those grunts, even for grouper bait, they work really good for grouper also, is they make a noise that actually they shouldn't make, because that's what makes them get eaten a lot of times. They make that noise down there and that attracts big fish.
It's like saying, I'm over here. I'm over here.
Pretty much. Hey, real quick, Bass Assassin.
That's it.
This light is not doing it justice. Hold on. Let me see if I get it in the.
It's a
let me see if I
beautiful
do the whole
color.
package. It's called Flamingo Flash. All right, so it just came out. Let's see if
I'm dying to try it.
There. That's showing it a little bit better. Let me see if I put a piece of white paper behind it.
Well, let me see if I got some light. I got a package here.
There we go. I'm not sure. I'm trying to show how pink this thing really is.
Let's see.
Well, that's washing it out.
Go, George.
But anyway, this has a really, really pink hue to it. And the glitter that is inside of this is unbelievable. It's loaded with glitter.
It's like the old bubblegum color,
Yeah.
remember?
And
With glitter.
It's got a lot of fleck in it. It's going to catch your sunlight. And that's going to be good. And basically, little P&V, they have it in the sea shad. They have it in a jerk bait. The difference with the jerk bait has a very loose tail, so you can work that, especially with like a worm hook, and that will really work very well through the water. The little P&V, I like to throw a 1/4 ounce jig head, maybe an 1/8 ounce, depending on the depth. And that, it just has a good up and down motion. When you work that jig head, this thing has got some motion on it, and all this glitter is just going to catch the sunlight. And both Sergio and I both love glitter in our soft plastic.
To me, it's almost like a must, George.
Yeah,
You know?
it makes it flash. If you've ever just drifted across a flat and actually just watched the flat, you will see the pinfish eating in the grass, and when they turn on their side, you will see a bunch of little flashes. Whitebait, when it's going through the water, when you disturb it and they start swimming, you'll just see the flashing all over the place. So that's the key. That's what you're trying to do with these artificials. You're trying to mimic the actual thing. And it does. It works really well. And then some of the other colors, like, you've heard me say chicken on a chain. Same thing. It's got a lot of glitter in it. and then they add a chartreuse tail on the end. So then you got even something brighter flashing with the sunlight. But glitter, I would say 95 to 99% of my soft flashes have glitter.
Yeah,
I
if
think
it's got glitter, I love it. And
there's a few colors. I would say like white. White is one that I could go without glitter because it's so bright.
you got that pearlescent one.
Yeah, yeah. And we're getting close to running out of
We're
time.
going to give you a fishing report.
All right.
Hey guys, this is Captain George Hastic of Fish Hunter Fishing Charters coming to you from St. Petersburg, Florida. Well, bait's been plentiful everywhere from the bridges to the flats. Baits everywhere, plenty of scaled sardines on the flats around the bridges, plenty of threadfin herring out there, basically just out in the middle of the bay all the way to as shallow as 4 feet of water. Really just look for them showering. If you want threadfins, they're plentiful also. Make great cut bait. They also work good live for cobia, snook, redfish. Just a good all-around bait. The white bait, of course, they're very hardy in the live well. Just don't overstuff your live well right now with the heat we got going on. We're in the rain's cooled the water down a little bit, but you're still in the mid to upper 80s. At one time we were hitting 90. I guess it depends on where you're at right now. I'm sure if you get into some shallow water with a dark bottom, you'll probably hit 88, 89, even 90-degree water. But with that being said, a lot of you snook and redfish are tucking way under still, under the mangroves. You want to definitely get your casts getting up under the mangroves or at least to the edge of the mangrove. Cut bait wouldn't be a bad idea right now. Some cut threadfin, cut white bait, even cut pinfish. If you can't cast under the mangroves, at least get it right to the edge of the mangrove. The cut bait, really, you should be able to skip that under pretty easily, actually. But like I said, if you're not good at that, look for openings or at least get it close to that mangrove tree line. Your live scaled sardines are definitely still producing. Go ahead and throw some showers out there, throw it along the tree line, and a lot of times that would draw the fish out and also get them more active. Your trout are in kind of two different areas: the grass edge flats and that 4 to 6 feet of water with a lot of sand holes. It's holding trout, and then also out in the bay, you get your shell bottom. I've caught trout as deep as 18 feet of water just recently, but that's over a shell bottom like a coral. A mix of grass patches type of stuff. We were actually catching grouper and trout right in the same spot, so it's a pretty wild time right now this time of year. Now on the trout, I've been still throwing that chicken on a chain 4-inch sea shad by Saltwater Assassin. That thing is working wonders. It'll catch everything, really. Anything that eats a live bait will eat this thing. The action on it's really good. It's also scented. Recently on one of my trips, I threw a artificial out there, which was the sea shad in that color, and a client got hooked up, so I had to put that in the rod holder. By the time we caught his fish and netted it, the sea shad that was sitting still on the bottom had a trout on it. So that scent that they put in those baits is definitely working. So don't be afraid to try yourself some of the Saltwater Assassin line. The little PNVs and the sea shads is the two that I've been using lately, mostly on a 1/4 ounce jig head, but if you need to switch down to an 1/8 ounce to get that sink to be a little bit slower and not snag the bottom so much, don't be afraid of doing that. Your residential canals right now, you'll have to look early morning, late evening. There's been some juvenile tarpon rolling. They'll take a white jerk bait and or, threadfin and your scaled sardine also. So you just need to look in the areas. Now, some of the larger tarpon, all of your bridges and the reefs, shad on the bottom, cut threadfin. Those are two dangerous baits if you want to go try chunking for tarpon. That'll definitely work for you really well. And the mackerel, the white baits, start throwing those white baits out there, get a chum slick going. They'll show up in your chum slick. Maybe even try to work some of the schools of threadfin. If you see them getting blasted, gold spoon, silver spoon, work the area. It's a fun time, and they pull drag really good. Set your drag medium to medium light. This way, on that initial hit, you don't just rip the hook out of their mouths. All right, this has been Captain George Hastic. Have a good day.
Way to go, George.
All right, I tried.
Hey, you got it, man. And hey, we're out of time, but
We are out of
again,
time.
we want to always, George and I want to say thank you very much for tuning in. Tell all your friends about us. And don't forget to watch Fishing Adventures Florida on YouTube, Waypoint, Carbon TV, Angling TV. But YouTube, I know, is the easiest thing for most people. Please, if you like it, subscribe, tell your friends about it. I tell you what, I think I signed up about 25 or 30 at the boat show because a lot of people we did the seminars,
Right.
they just went ahead and scanned the barcode and we're right into it. So again, we want to thank you very much. I think we're going to break 42,000 in the next week or so. So that would be great.
Yep, you guys, just go to the YouTube channel. You want to help Sergio out? Just hit that subscribe button.
We love you if you do that. All right. And
All
thank
right.
you, George. And-
She says, Jessica says, she said, good report. And then she said, I'll get with Sergio about scalping.
Yeah, good. Yeah, just give me a
Thank-
call. But we want to do a show. Maybe we can get everybody out there, get George out there to do some scalloping. Don't laugh. Why not?
I appreciate you saying good report, and I wish you luck with your charters.
All right. Take care. Happy
All right,
4th of
everybody.
July, everybody, and a safe one, please.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Goodbye.